Welcome back to another episode. Today's a rather special episode. It is my 100th video, and I can't believe I've actually made 100 videos already. It's unbelievable. So what I wanted to do today was actually look back on the very first video I ever released, and that was my review of Phantasy Star 1 on the Sega Master System, one of my favorite video games of all time. Now I'm happy with my review, but my style has changed so much over the last year and a half that I thought it'd be fun to revisit the review with the new style that I have now for the show. Here we go. So to begin this review, we have to kind of look back to the past for a minute. And we have to look back to the Sega Mark III in Japan. And it was going up against the Famicom, and it wasn't doing so great. Now, the Famicom had something going for it. It had an RPG series that had just begun called Dragon Quest, and it was popular. Dragon Quest was huge in Japan. So Sega was saying we need an RPG on our system as well. So they created an internal team to work on a next generation RPG for the Mark III. Now what's amazing is that internal team, little did they know that they would actually be making history. And they were going to introduce things to the world of video games that had never been done before. So in December 1987, it was released, Phantasy Star 1 on the Mark III. Now, Phantasy Star really broke the mold on RPGs, on console RPGs. The first thing that it had going for it was a female character. Now, you'd never actually seen a female character in a console RPG before, so that was a really fresh, brand new thing. The whole idea behind the game is excellent as well. It was really, really new. It's kind of like Star Wars in a way. There's actually laser swords and stuff like that in the game, and you actually have guns and laser guns and stuff like that, but you also have medieval swords and shields, so they combined a lot of things. It actually combined science and magic. It was very cool the way they did it. This game introduced so many brand new things. One of the main things it introduced was 3D dungeons, and I mean, wow, I had never seen anything like this at the time. Nobody had. We were just like, wow, look at this thing. It was incredible. And for anybody who doesn't know, Yuji Naka of Sonic Team fame was actually a programmer in this internal team, and he did all the programming on the 3D dungeons, and he got it right. And I remember reading an interview that at first the dungeons were going way too fast, and they actually had to slow them down just to make them look more natural. And when they did that, it looked perfect, and they were really happy with it. So at first it was going a lot faster, and then they found the right rhythm to it. But you gotta understand, in 1988, when the game was released over here, wow, you'd never seen anything like these 3D dungeons before. They just blew your mind. Another innovation was the animation of the enemies in the game. Up to that point, even in Dragon Quest, an enemy would appear on the screen and it'd just be a static enemy. It wouldn't really do anything. You just fight it and you get your statistics if you won or not, gold and all that. But that'd be about it. Where in Phantasy Star, not only did the enemies animate, but the backgrounds animated as well. So that was a true innovation. And some of the animation on some of these enemies was so fluid, you couldn't believe it. It was like seeing a cartoon. In 1988, I remember seeing the game going, oh wow, I can't believe it's like looking at a cartoon, like playing a cartoon. It's funny that games have come so advanced now that Phantasy Star's graphics will look very medieval, no pun intended to a lot of people, but you have to understand it was groundbreaking stuff at the time. And one thing I really want to talk about is the diversity in the monsters in this game. Wow, there were so many interesting types of monsters. You basically went from like griffins to Medusa to robot cops. They had every kind of monster robot type of thing that you could ever want. And it's kind of neat. You don't just fight monsters. Actually, you can talk to some of the monsters and they'll actually talk back, and you don't actually have to fight them. The other really huge groundbreaking thing you could do in this game at the time was travel to different planets, and there was 3 planets: Palma, Motavia, and Azorus. Now, you could actually travel to these planets by going to airports and getting in a spaceship and traveling to the other planets. But later on in the game, you meet Habsby, the robot, and you eventually get your own ship. And then you can travel to planets when you want to at any time. I remember the first time I left the first planet, I went to Motavia, which is the desert planet, the second planet, and I was just like, oh my god, this is so cool. I couldn't believe that you could actually do that in a video game at the time. The basic plot line of the game, without ruining anything or giving story spoilers, is a fairly basic one. It's a tale of revenge. Basically, the Algo star system is under control by King Lassic, and Nero, the head of a resistance group, is trying to overthrow Lassic to basically get control back, but he's actually killed by Lassic. And then, so we're introduced to Alice, and she's basically taking revenge for her brother's death. Nero asked her to find Odin, a really powerful warrior, to help her overthrow Lassic. And so that's where the story begins. She heads off into the world, and she has to find her companions. It's kind of cool how you find some of these characters. Odin is actually in the underground of this cavern, and when you finally get all the way through this gigantic cavern, you get there, and he's basically being turned to stone by Medusa. And you have to, change him back, and then he becomes part of your party. But it was very cool having to go find your party members. It was one of the very first games to actually have a party system, and that was really cool. It was so neat finding your party members all throughout their different worlds. Gameplay is standard RPG fare that we know so well now. Basically, you grind, kicking the crap out of monsters, making money, buying weapons, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. It was still fun as hell in this game. I loved it. There's a few differences between the Japanese version of Phantasy Star and the American version of Phantasy Star, besides some of the naming of the characters and such and some of the translation. In the Japanese version, the sound is a lot better, and that's thanks to the FM sound chip that was actually used on the Mark III. Now, the FM sound chip, unfortunately, is not in the American Sega Master System. What Phantasy Star did was help cement the foundations in which all other RPGs are based off today. Because you have to understand, at the time, there was only Dragon Quest on a console and a few PC RPGs, and other than that, all you had was pen and paper RPGs. Nowadays in the world we have thousands of role-playing games have spawned off, tons of them, but this is one of the originals. This is one that actually really made a difference and kind of changed things. It was really great. Earlier in the week I was able to slap the game back in and give it another shot and play it again. And wow, I played this game and finished it probably about 12 times. I love the game that much, and I just have so much fun with it. It's such a great game. And something else I did recently that was very, very cool was I actually went back to my old neighborhood where I originally walked down the road from my house to my buddy's place, and he had Phantasy Star 1, he had this copy, and it was very nostalgic for me to walk back through the old neighborhoods again. It was really crazy. So today's really unusual. I'm actually going on a drive 23 years into the past. I'm revisiting my old neighborhood to where I actually had a lot of video game memories, and first and foremost played Phantasy Star 1. It's so strange being here. It's really unusual. This is my old neighborhood. This is where I used to live. But this street right here leads down to my friend's place. And 23 years ago, I walked down this street to his house one morning just for the hell of it, and he happened to have this game right here, Phantasy Star. He basically had gone with his family and some of my friends on a trip down to the States. And they'd gone for the weekend, and they'd come back and they'd bought a Sega Master System, this game and a few others. And they were all down there playing the game, and I just happened to walk down, and it was so amazing because I'd seen commercials for this game, and I couldn't believe that my friend had it. It was the most exciting thing. It's just tripping me out. I got so many memories about this neighborhood. This is where I grew up, so to come back is just, it's eerie. It's so nostalgic. It's disturbing in a way. It's weird. I got so many memories of being a kid. It's funny, that guy's house over there, that's the first place I played Super Mario Brothers at. And this house right here, you get this house right here, this is the first place I ever played Zelda at. Again, why I wanted to come back here today is because this is the place that actually changed my life. This is where I became a real video gamer. And that had a huge impact on me. That changed my life, it really did. And it was the basement here. And my friend no longer lives here, unfortunately, so we can't go back to the basement. I really wanted to come back to the area where I first played this game and I had such a life-changing moment. I remember when I did my first Phantasy Star review, I went back to the basement, which was here. And I showed the basement, and I was really embarrassed about it. I thought, oh my god, people are gonna think I'm nuts for coming back to this place all these years later. But a lot of people have written to me saying, wow, I used to go to a friend's place and game in his basement, and that totally reminds me of that. It was so nuts to go see the old neighborhood. It really blew me away. Yeah, Phantasy Star was such a groundbreaking game for myself. It just changed my life. It changed the way I thought as a video gamer at the time. I couldn't believe, the animated intro to the game and all of that stuff. It just blew me away. But, a game on its own is just basically plastic and some chips, but it's the experiences that we have with some of these games that can really change our lives and really, make an impact on us. And Phantasy Star made an impact on me, and I'm still thinking about this game 23 years later, and I got some fond memories of it. So anyways, guys, until next time.